Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having invited me to this conference today. The topic is particularly relevant given that we are having to host the conference online rather than in person. As a representative of the charity Mind, I would like to discuss the connection between mental health and social media. In particular, I'd like to consider how these strange times have made us re-evaluate the advantages and disadvantages of social media. Ladies and gentlemen, we are facing an epidemic. And for once, I'm not talking about the novel coronavirus. I am talking about the loneliness epidemic. This is not a problem that has arisen with the spread of the virus, although undoubtedly the virus has increased loneliness. In fact, back in 2018, a study in The Economist found that almost 1/4 of adults in the UK often feel lonely. Other studies have found even higher levels of loneliness. For example, 46% of American adults stated that they were always or sometimes feeling alone. But it's not a problem that only affects the English-speaking world. In Japan, for instance, over 500,000 adults under 40 have not left their home or interacted with anyone in the last 6 months. This is a serious cause for concern. Of course, loneliness has an impact on one's mental state. It can lead to depression, anxiety, and even schizophrenia. But recent studies have shown that it also has an impact on our physical health. Social isolation causes chronic inflammation, which increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, cancer, and Alzheimer's disease. In fact, lonely individuals have a 26% higher risk of dying. But what's behind this epidemic? Especially given that young people today who are suffering from loneliness seem more connected than ever before. How can it be possible that somebody who has thousands of Facebook friends can feel isolated or disconnected? Well, the reason is that social media platforms are designed not to promote friendship and interaction, but to maximize the amount of time users spend glued to their screens. On the one hand, social media platforms like Facebook, Snapchat, and Instagram can help people to stay in contact with friends in their offline world. But on the other hand, social media is not a substitute for a real connection. It can increase feelings of inadequacy and loneliness. What's more, viewing curated snapshots can make people feel that everyone else has a better life than they do, that everyone else has more friends, more fun, and is happier. In fact, the heaviest users of social media, those who visit websites over 50 times a week, are 3 times as likely to feel isolated than the lowest users. To give an example, let's take the case of one social media user who described how she would use Facebook to feel involved in other people's lives. She struggled with face-to-face contact. But very quickly, her use escalated to over 60 hours a week, and she constantly faced feelings of rejection when she saw photos of parties that she wasn't invited to. The problem here is the incentives. Social media platforms make money from advertising. The more time users spend online, the more money they can make from advertising. So, for all that big tech companies promise that they will change, the incentive problem remains. This means that we must adopt healthier habits when it comes to social media. We need to seek out and maximize the advantages of these platforms. Unsurprisingly, the current coronavirus pandemic is a good example of how to do this. Suddenly, face-to-face contact is not an option. But at the charity Mind, we have been struck by the opportunities these platforms offer. Around the world, people are struggling with quarantine conditions. Mind is especially concerned about the risk of a social recession to accompany the economic one. Careful use of social media could be a lifeline in several ways. Firstly, though it's important not to be bombarded with negative news, social media does offer an opportunity for people to create vlogs, such as the coronavirus vlogs created by the Diamond Princess cruise liner passengers. These are a useful avenue for self-expression. They make people feel that their voices are being heard. They can also provide useful information and help people to be connected, to maintain community networks. Secondly, social media platforms can be important for sharing news and support within a community. In my local area, for example, a Facebook page has been set up to support people locally. Neighbours who are self-isolating can request help with shopping, for example. We are used to considering social media as something that keeps people apart by encouraging to spend all their time online rather than in face-to-face contact. But in fact, this is a good example of how social media can help communities to rally round. The coronavirus outbreak is a traumatic experience for many. Some have lost loved ones. So social media platforms can support people by commemorating and offering a space to grieve loved ones. Take the example of the Chinese doctor, the first whistleblower to alert the community to the risk of the virus. He was commemorated through social media after his untimely death. The third point is that although social media is often accused of spreading disinformation, the platforms have actually improved their ways of dealing with news. And at the moment, these platforms can represent an important source of information. For example, the WHO has recently been described as the planet's most important social influencer. Take their Safe Hands Challenge, for example. They encouraged celebrities to wash their hands, promoting healthy hygiene around the world. Perhaps even more importantly, scientists have been able to use social media to collaborate in the fight against the virus. Very quickly after the outbreak occurred, the coronavirus genome was published online. This enabled thousands of researchers to collaborate and brainstorm possible cures and solutions. Finally, social media enables people to continue with their normal existence. For example, a classical pianist decided to host his concert over Twitter so that people didn't miss out on their cultural events. My local cinema club has promised to live stream events over Facebook. We are living in difficult times, and we're in need of a bit of good news. Let's hope then that it's time for social media to show its true potential. In these circumstances, it may just be that it can help to reduce isolation rather than increase it.